Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. This is my first time doing this type of stream. Obviously, we're talking about other streams, but it's the first time me, yeah, by myself doing this. So, yeah, let's get right in. So, there's a couple of you here. Thank you for joining. Why don't you chuck in the chat? Where are you coming from? Where are you tuning in from? I am based in Sydney, Australia, so it is another 4 a.m. start for me. But I'm just trying to figure out what the yeah, what a good time to kind of do this kind of thing is. I really want to do more of these because I've been doing a couple of these now and come up with a few different tips and tricks and things. So we've got someone from Belgium, 8 p.m. here. And no, it's not a late night. It's an early morning. Had a yeah, we got from Scotland as well, Netherlands. This is very cool. Yeah, so welcome. My name's Ryan. A bit of backstory about me. I've been working in film and television for about 15 odd years or so, full time. I actually started off mostly in camera land, so doing things like Steadicam, crane, spider cam, also DOP and director. So that's mostly my back end. And yeah, so started off in that. How I got into the live streaming things was mostly through church. We've been doing a bunch of yeah, obviously filming Sundays and streaming and well, doing broadcasts mostly back in those days before streaming was more of a thing. So that is where I got into that. And obviously as COVID hit, things got a bit crazy, as we all know. So this event that we're talking about was for a leading tech company. Unfortunately, I can't really talk much about who it is, what it is. You might be able to figure it out. That's up to you. So it's for a leading tech company. My client was Phil Nosworthy from the Nosworthy Group. Shout out to you guys. These guys are amazing. So Phil and Jess, thank you for the opportunity for being able to do this. And so about a year ago, Jess came up to me because Phil is a keynote speaker. He goes around the world. We normally do these kind of conferences online, but sorry, not online, in person. But in person was not a thing anymore. So they came to me and go, hey, can we do an online thing? So we're doing an online thing now. Just jumping in, we got from Netherlands, Scotland, Kansas, United States, Netherlands. A lot of people from Netherlands. That's really cool. Yeah, so they came to me and said, hey, can you give us a hand doing these live events? So the first one we did was we did at our church because our church had kind of converted into a bit of mini studio. We set up our stage in that way. So that was a bit of fun. That was a bit crazy. It was just myself and a producer in the control room doing everything. So yeah, it's grown a bit from then. We had that was the first one we did was a Zoom meeting. We had contributors coming in. So trying to do it all myself it was a forum broadcast studio for that one. But yeah, I mean, you're here to learn more about this event. So let me jump into that. So it was a manager meetup. There's about 400 to 500 people. So it was three-day events, 2 time zones a day. So the first one started at 1 a.m. our time, and the second one started at 12 p.m. our time. So the 3 hours each. So crew-wise, we had myself as the director, had a vision switcher, a tech on site. We had a Zoom tech, internet tech, links tech, camera operator, producer, production assistant, and there was a few other people who came in. Yeah, so I've got a couple of extra little clips which I'll play now just to show a bit of behind of what we did. So, but if you got some questions about the original video or anything like that, please feel free to throw it in the chat. I will be keen to get onto them, but I've got plenty of notes I want to get through as well. But yeah, I'll check out this behind the scenes. I think later on I might pause through on different images and talk about those bits. But yeah, enjoy. Cool. So, hope you enjoyed that. That was just a little bit thrown together. Thanks again to the Nosworthy Group for filming that behind the scenes and allowing me to actually show this and show you guys what we were doing. So, people are asking, what are you using for this stream playout? So, I'll show you actually a bit behind this setup. But anyway. Let's see if this works. Hey. Only got 2 stream decks for this one, but running a A10 Mini Extreme ISO. But playing these out of OBS. So I've basically got some macros set up to play back videos and go live with that. So yeah. That's how I'm doing this one. 6+ stream decks. I think we had 11 in the end, which was a bit stupid. We actually wanted more, just purely to have buttons in front of us, but we didn't get there. Anyway, let's jump into some more detailed stuff. If there's anything you want to ask, feel free to throw in the chat. But so one thing we did, which I really wish. So we. As part of the event, we had our Phil, who was our host in the studio. He ran the events, and we had a co-contributor who was from this company, kind of to be a voice from the company's point of view, because obviously Phil is a external. He's speaking into the company, but he doesn't actually work there. So we're based in Sydney. She was based in Western USA. So the plan. So we sent her a A10 Mini Pro, a Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, microphone, a light, a laptop, had a tech go there and set it up for them. So the plan was that we would use OBS Ninja, which we use for all of our contributor links in and out to, so OBS Ninja for the communication, as well as a backup feed, but the primary feed was going to come in by a streaming bridge. And I did a test with a guy in California, and that all worked, but unfortunately she only had 10 meg upload on her internet. She had 250 download, but only 10 meg upload. Anyway. So as much as we tried, we could not get it working, which was really annoying because unfortunately, I don't know what was up with her line, but we just couldn't get a stable connection. So ended up dropping the whole streaming bridge thing, but ended up with just running OBS Ninja. Speaking of, actually, it's not ABS Ninja anymore, is it? It's VDO Ninja, has been recently renamed. So when it came to the, so we, in our links LAN, we had 3 different stations. We had a station for main stage, which was any contributors coming in remotely, which was talking to Phil as well as each other. Before that was a green room, so we sent them out a link to our green room. Our tech on our end received them and said, hey, got them all set up. Try to get them on Ethernet, which most of them did not do. And we had dropouts and a whole bunch of things because of it. Just use Ethernet, it's worth it. They came in there. We also set up PowerPoint. So last year when we did a couple of these, we had people, well, it was just on Zoom. So we had one Zoom machine for their picture, one Zoom machine for their PowerPoint. The first time we did that, the guest had a bunch of videos and it just failed miserably. Well, it didn't fail. It was just doing 2 frames a second. So we ended up, so we ended up, so we brought all the keynotes and PowerPoints locally. So we use internetclicker.com. So that was what we used to actually, so we sent them that link. They would go through the things. We would actually send them their PowerPoint as well. We were originally sending them their PowerPoint, but one of our techs actually had the idea of adding the PowerPoint machine to the call. So it was just another picture in their windows. So that was a brilliant idea. But always trying to find easy ways of doing this because you want to make them comfortable. And especially us being so far away, latency is a big issue. Yeah, so and then so for our remote host, so we sent them a computer which had, so they could see full screen our feed. So part of the ridiculousness of all the MEs, so we're running 7 MEs for the show. Let me look, give you like a bit of a peek of the spreadsheet that we ran for this. Not that one, this one. So we managed to fill up the constellation, which was just stupid. But anyway, so we ran 7 cameras on the floor. We had a bunch of cameras around each control area so we could see each other and, you know, give thumbs up and things. We had 2 gallery systems going, just full screen gallery of Zoom. So someone's asked the question of how the big screen is set up. So that's just a LED wall. So we had a vision feed coming in. We were running a super source on that. Actually, it was an ME and a super source. So the gallery view we chopped together and then just scale it in there. So yeah, so we had an ME and a super source running that screen. Yeah, so it's pretty basic. Most of the content we just loaded in at native resolution, so it's just the top left-hand corner of the thing. It was about 1000 by 400 pixels or so, roughly. We also had 4 contributor lines, a remote host line. We eventually added a program dirty just so we could send that back down. So one little okay, because our internet here is horrendous, we've had way too many dropouts. We've basically decided that all of our jobs we're going to run redundant internet. So especially with OBS Ninja, it was super helpful because we could have the link coming in. So in our main stage setup, we set up 8 scenes, so across 2 computers and 2 different internets. So scenes 1 to 4 was 1 to 4 on PC A, and the other one was 1 to 4 on PC B. So what we did was we actually ran all of those feeds into a clean switch, and the idea being that we had redundancy, but us in the control room, we didn't have to worry about cutting between the main and the backup. That was the link tech who was able to do that. So he was jumping between the main and the backup depending which one was stronger. So he would jump in the backup and then make adjustments to the primary, go to back to the primary. But because it was a clean switch, we did not notice any difference. So that was a little hack that we did to do the whole primary redundant system, and it worked really well. I think we'll definitely do that every time coming from now on. Because what we used to do was just run everything into the switcher and then have to cut the video and then call to audio to cut the audio to the other one. But having them come in via the clean switch just meant that we could just, they could just jump between. Just had a little stream deck there, just going primary, backup, depending on how they want to do it. So that was handy. So we had the remote host coming in stream bridge. Now playbacks. So we were running 4 Hyperdeck Studio Minis. Awesome little machines. And all of our playbacks ran off that. And can highly recommend doing so as well. So we ran Companion for everything. Love Companion. It's amazing. So the idea being that in the prep for the show, so this is one of the files from the show. When we had the run sheet, we just gave every VT a number. So it was just a case of, cool, let's just roll VT3. So essentially what it was doing was loading up the clip in the deck, hitting play on the deck as a single playback. Now, I believe this VT was already full screens, but what we were doing for most of them, I just want to see if there's one there. Yeah, so for most of them, we were running, actually transitioning the switcher as well. So much like I was doing with the video before. So it'd be like run VT3, bang. It would cue the videos in both the primary and backup hyperdeck. So we ran 2 at the same time. It would hit play. It would auto transition or sting into the video, and it was just hands off. So it wasn't a case of like roll BT, hey tape, you there? So it was just single button, super handy, and it ran both at the same time. Put the second one in preview so that we could just go, if the primary failed, just go straight to the secondary. Super handy. Highly recommend. Now, the Playout B, that is another system that has come out, which is basically Raspberry Pi Hyperdeck. So I'm actually really curious to see how that goes as an alternative, because obviously the Hyperdecks are expensive, and you can't get them anymore because they're just out of stock everywhere. But yeah, I'm keen to see that as an alternative. But another thing that I loved about the Hyperdecks is it forced each file to be the same resolution, same frame rate. So it meant that you actually had to do the QC, QC of each file and make sure it all works, because otherwise it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't play out. That's one thing with Hyperdeck, is that you have to run it in, each file has to be the same frame rate. So if you've got something at 25p, 29, it'll just pick the first one and then just only play those ones that are at the first one. The downside to that is obviously you have to have each file played loaded in there for it to work. So as with every show, trying to get videos in at the time was a pain, but we got there. So yeah, so moving down from there, so we had a playback main and backup. So those were for the main videos. There's a couple of long ones. We did in the first session, we would do some pre-records of that session to play in the second session. So that was just a quick edit, throw it out and chop it in. Now we had lower thirds, which we did as ProRes Alpha, 4444 Alpha, and those were just left live. So basically we hit lower third 4, it would animate in, sits in the right spot, all is well. And we had an animation one as well. So you may have noticed in the video there, we had an overlay of the image. So this is where more of the MEs came in. We ran a overlay just with a bit of branding of the show, and then the actual image was cropped in a little bit to fill that frame. So we actually cut on ME2 bus. ME2 bus was then routed into ME1 bus via one of the upstream keys. So we ran all 4 upstream keys on ME1 bus, basically being ME2. Then we had lower thirds. So lower thirds came in at that point. So we had the lower thirds aligned for full screen so that it matched up with the original one. Then we had the overlay which ran over the top, and we had an animation layer which went on top of that. So we had some effects which basically overran the overlay. So we had those 4 layers is how we were doing that. And we ran that with fill and key for both the lower thirds and the animation. And now I'm breaking the PowerPoint, breaking the thing. So speaking of PowerPoint, we ran, Phil had his deck and he was reading off his notes. So rather than running a teleprompter, we actually, so Phil was a huge fan of running a clicker himself. So he had a keynote running, and he was just powering through his notes. So he was in control of that. The remote host had the same one, so they were both just going through each slide individually. Super helpful for us, so we can actually see the notes as they're coming up, see where we're up to in the show. And then we had a backup machine just in case any of those machines went down, and the guest PowerPoint with the notes as well. We're running Planning Center for our timer. I am curious to know if anyone's got any other recommendations for timers. Planning Center was great because we could make adjustments on the fly, 3-hour shows. So if things went long, we could adjust things as we went. Hyperdeck timers. Now, if someone out there can make a full screen hyperdeck timer thing, I will be your biggest fan forever. So what we actually ended up doing was, so these are actually showing the countdown timer from the hyperdeck. So obviously I haven't got one plugged in at the moment. So essentially what we ended up doing was full screening, moving this view smaller, and we just had VT 1, 2, and 3 as buttons, but the buttons we just made as big as we could and put it on the screen. So that was how we actually did a timer. But if anyone can actually do a better job of that, that'd be amazing. Because it seems like most people have been using the hyperdecks as recorders, which they're great recorders, but as playback devices, I think they're brilliant as well. Had an Apple TV. We did end up using it, but the plan was to do a iPad drawing on the screen. And then we had a couple more things where we had to route a few things around. Now, so I mentioned we ran 3 switches, actually 4, because we had the A10 Mini in the States. So we were using the A2Z Productions Super Source animation, which is what I'm using here as well. And because that's set up for Super Source 1, and there were 2 places we wanted to run those super sources, one being the full screen, which is like what I'm doing here, and we had a TV on the set which we wanted to run as well, so that when we ran guests on the plasma, we could animate them in and out. So it meant that we ran 2 switches with Super Source 1 in there. So we had a 2ME, which we routed back into the constellation, and then the Super Source 2 from the constellation ran into the 2ME, which ran the LED screen. So there was a lot of jumbling around. Let's see. Yeah, so in terms of... Yeah, so ME1 was a main feed output with the overlay. 2 was a clean feed cut. We ran one of them as a dirty teleprompter. So we ran... On the teleprompter, we had the remote guests keyed in behind. I don't know if you saw that in the previous video. We had our guest below, our notes on top. We did a bad key so that it was kind of dimmed out behind. And then we had a clock, which we put in the corner as well. And that also went, the clock also went to the remote host and the remote guest. So that was where the L2 MEs came in, because we wanted to send them individual feeds, but running them separately. Then we had, the set 65 screen on the TermE, LED screen, and then remote contributors main stage was doing that. So everything was running through the constellation, through the auxes. But yeah, this whole thing just got ridiculous. And yeah, we got the inputs going into the TermE as well. Yeah, anyway. Things got a bit crazy. It was good fun. So in terms of audio, having the MADI out on the constellation was a lifesaver. You can see here we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stereo D embeds worth of feeds coming from the switcher, which doing it with analog D embedders would have just been a pain. So having the MADI there was so handy, because we could just go bang, bang. But if someone from Blackmagic is watching, please allow us to adjust the what we can output on the MADI. So all I want is to run the media player audio out the MADI, which you can do in 8K mode, but no one's running 8K mode. I just want the Sting audio. It is, that's all we needed, because we had to get the Sting audio into the switcher. We actually had to not embed in the switcher, embed post switcher, so that we could send just the Sting audio into the console, so it could be mixed in. So if anyone from Blackmagic is watching, please allow us to make some other changes to how the D-embed works. Please. I might just jump into a few quick questions while we're here as well. How did you handle all audio with a mixer or virtual? So yes, we ran it with a mixer. So we had a Midas Pro 2C as our mixer. So we're running up to, I think we have 48 channels worth of inputs on the mixer, and all the mix minusing stuff was done in the mixer as well. So we were running feeds from our hosts out to the remote guests as well. And yeah, it was actually a mess of a thing in the end, but we got there. We're always trying to find other ways. But yeah, so it was running on a physical switcher. None of it was virtual. The Constellation mixer, excuse me, was purely for running the Sting, just like I said. Player B is a nice solution indeed. It is. I've got a Raspberry Pi sitting here at the moment. I'm just waiting on my HDMI cables. I wish it had a full-size HDMI like the other ones used to. And Leb, thanks for joining. Welcome to the stream. Anyway, so let's keep going. So, clean switch. Do it for your contributors. It's super handy. So another fun thing about running Companion for your animations and such. So we had, similar to the intro of this, thanks Jess for letting me use that intro, that countdown video. It's such a cool jam. So what we were able to do was, if we wanted to, so we had a 10-minute timer, but there were times where we need 5-minute countdown rather than 10. So we were able to adjust the start time code so that when we hit go, bang, we started from 5 minutes and played out from there. So that was super handy, because we could just go into here, do the start time code, and hit go. The other thing we did was we ran, as we're doing rehearsals, there was a lot of just stumble throughs of each cue. So we just ran the last 10 seconds, which literally went bang to the end of the clip, rewind 10 seconds, and keep playing out, so that we could practice the transitions. So that was a handy little thing that we went there. The arcade machines were a bit fun. We ran Pro Video Player and just ran a single line for each yeah, a single line into each screen, and then we could just, so we didn't actually go through a switcher for that. That was pretty handy. So Zoom, this is kind of the whole reason why we're here. So anyone at Zoom, please allow us to get 1080p output, because we 360 is not good enough. So we were able to use a way of getting, so the way we ended up getting 720 out of this stream was to add a Zoom room to the call. So we had a laptop dedicated for Zoom rooms, which was annoying, but ended up working. So once they join the call, the entire call upgrades instantly to 720, and it's only $60 a month or so. So it's a quick and easy way of getting at least 720 for your broadcast, because 360 is just nowhere near good enough, especially if you got text. And we had a lot of small text. Looking at the thing, at the notes. I'm actually curious to if anyone out there has any information. So there was a post that went up recently on one of the Facebook groups about what frame rate is people using. I think it was on the NDI group. And I'm very interested to see what people's thoughts are on that, because the way I've been looking at it is, so YouTube, for example, if you're live streaming, it'll push it to 30 or 60, depending on which side of that you're on, regardless. So I'm in Australia. We run PAL here in this country. PAL actually makes sense. I love PAL. It's so good. But I've been doing all these streams at NTSC because all the broadcasts are coming in that way. So yeah, curious to hear your thoughts on, frame rates, what you guys are doing there. So I mean, this stream I'm running at 30 because it's coming out at 30 anyway. So there's no point shooting in 25 just because it's Australian standard and then letting YouTube add 5 frames a second somewhere. So that was an interesting one. Oh, so the other fun part of sending the remote host a A10 Mini and a Pocket Cinema was we had CCU control. And not only CCU control, we had lighting control. So we were able to tweak her camera, make adjustments and black-white balances and coloring and such. The other fun thing was we had I can't remember what the light was, but we had a light panel with a DMX to USB running into the DMX running into the computer, so we could actually bump the light up and down and also adjust the white balance depending on how much light was coming in a window. Super handy. The other fun thing was we ran TeamViewer on that machine. Don't recommend TeamViewer. It used way too much CPU, and the CPU was not happy, even though it was an i7, like 2-year-old MacBook Pro. So we ran a dummy HDMI monitor on the computer itself. So the idea being that the guest was looking at Zoom or OBS Ninja, or whatever they're looking at that time, but on the second screen off to the side, which they couldn't see, we had full control. So we had ATEM software open, we had the lighting software open, so that we could log in without them knowing and make adjustments to the camera, as well as adjust their links if they need to as well. So it was an expensive exercise sending them a kit, but having that ability was super handy. So yeah, that was a really handy little thing. If you guys have some questions, please throw them in the chat. I am keen to hear your thoughts. Been using 25p for years and do everything, but now everything I do with YouTube is on 30. Yeah, it's, I mean, I miss PAL because PAL actually makes sense. Now, the bit that confuses me is that when we're running, well, when YouTube says 30, are they actually meaning 30, or is it 2997? Or is it 5994/60? Like, and so all the big vision switches, they don't actually do 30 or 60. I mean, the A10 Mini will do it, but I don't know why the big ones aren't doing it, which is a real pain. So Blackmagic, please add 30 or 60. That'd be great. Intercom link. Yes, so the other thing we were able to do, so we were using Gringo comms. So we ran a interface for the Gringo comms so that we could run in and out, so we could talk to each of the hosts. But so having that on comms was super handy, especially as you're directing. You can kind of count down the people you want to talk to. You can count down just the remote host. You can do just the remote guest. You can jump in the conversation with the green room, make sure everyone's happy and comfortable. That was super handy. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, chuck it in the chat. I am keen to hear your thoughts and questions. I'm just seeing if there's any other notes that I've got here which could potentially be handy. We unfortunately, I'm not able to share the actual event itself as it's purely an internal one. So the stuff that I was able to show, I wasn't exactly supposed to show any of it, but anyway, managed to sneak in a little few things for you guys out there. So if you've got any questions, please throw it in the chat. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on things. Let me try. As much as I enjoy the way, hello. Let me not do that. So I was going to go through and kind of freeze frame on different parts so I can explain how we did things. So let me try that. There we go. Yeah, so this is our LED screen. We had some custom content going, which the team did an amazing job running all this content. Camera-wise, we were running. What were we running? So we had Ursa Mini 4.6Ks and Ursa Mini Pros. Love these cameras, brilliant picture. So yeah, totally recommend that. So here's an example of the what we were setting on the teleprompter feed. So we had the remote host there, we had the text on top, and then we had the clock in the corner. It's not there at the moment, but it should have been there. This was recorded early in our rehearsals. So the idea being that, so we had the two positions. We had the position here. So on the set screen, he could turn around and look at the guest. So we had a second screen coming off to the side, which you can see in the other shot. And there's a camera in there just to the left of the screen. So the idea being that our host was able to look at the hosts on the screen, but actually looking a little bit more to the left to get a little bit more face for the over-the-shoulder camera. So there's a camera behind this camera shot here. So he could read his notes, he could look at the face of the person, but we get a bit more face for him to see of him, as well as but looking at the eye line correct for the line, crossing the line as well. John, oh no, not that one. Do you think your internet connections could have handled 1080p Zoom calls? So our primary connection was running, we had dual fiber coming into the building. So we had redundant fiber on that end. So we had 100 by 100 on that connection. And the 4G bonded we were getting was about similar, about 100 by 100 as well. So I think, yeah, we should have been fine. Should have been fine for that. When you say internet in Oz is it bad but consistent or bad or variable? Both. It's not horrendous. Unfortunately, being such a big country and such a small population for its size, there's not a lot of infrastructure being put into it, which is annoying, but we kind of have to deal with what we get. It's almost been a running joke that every time we've done one of these streams, we've had a dropout of some description. We had one on this call. That was actually a really bad time for that to happen. So we were throwing out to breakout rooms, and about 30 seconds before that happened, our main internet died. Now, because we were running the 2 Zoom calls, we had one on 4G, one on fiber. The plan was that we had both videos open, and then you just mute one, unmute the other. So they were always there. It would just automatically spotlight and move across. Now, at that moment, the internet died because it was 3 a.m. and the ISP decided to do an update on their switches in the area. Thank you, ISP. And so our techs were ready to cool, we're going to hit breakout rooms and off we go. And the breakout rooms didn't work. We still don't know why. We think it was because there were too many people in too many rooms, depending on the size of the large meeting add-on we had. But we basically hit go on 4G and nothing happened. And we're all sitting here going, what is going on? We were just thrown to this. We jumped on the other one, made up new ones, and it took us a couple of minutes to actually figure out what was going on. Well, we didn't end up finding out what was going on. So Zoom was a bit of a pain. It's always the breakout rooms which always end up breaking things. I don't know if you've been in similar situations where you've set up a breakout rooms and then people leave the call for a break and then all your things get messed up. So that was a real pain. Any more questions? No, not at this stage. Oh yeah, keep those questions coming in. Keen to hear. So this was our set. Also had a multi-view. The multi-view here at the moment is currently just so we can line up the shots, but we had the control room cameras in there so that we can give, thumbs up. And obviously I had audible. He had ears on so I could talk to him in his ears, but sometimes seeing a thumbs up is handy for their well-being. So this setup here is primary keynote, top left, and a backup there as well. Bottom left is the arcade machine, so we're sending the pictures out to there. And bottom right is sending the LED screen content. Nice and simple there. So we ran 2 vision panels, which was quite handy because actually our switch was being weird in the room, so we ended up having to jump between the 2 panels. That was mostly just to have a panel. So I'm sitting on the left there, and on the right is Steve, our vision tech, basically our companion tech. He was able to, punch some things in while we're doing that. I had a stream deck as well, which I was controlling the macros for the A to Z. So I was cutting the super source and then moving the super source around. Steve was putting the people in the super sources. So it was a bit much for just myself to do. The multi-views got a bit crazy. I love the new multi-views though for the Constellation. So this is our link land. So we're running. So the computer on the left was our remote host computer. We had, so you can see on the right there. So we're running 4 instances of OBS, and they're going to a Decklink Duo 2. So we had A1234 and then B1234. So two identical machines. Ran the director's page on the right so that we could hit scene 1, and then it will pop up in that window. And in the multi-view above, they had those boxes there. So that's how we did that. If someone can make an app that just goes from a browser source straight to Decklink and does as many as you want, that would be amazing. Because while OBS worked, having a standalone system would be great as well. Now, where are we up to? Yes, this is audio land. So running the Midas Pro 2C for audio. Routing got a bit crazy. This is our little fisheye cam so that we could see the whole set. So this is Linkland. We've got the green room, which is down near my hand there, near the coffee cup. So that was where people came in, and we had the guest PowerPoint behind that. So we just get them set up with PowerPoint and the internet clicker and set them out from there. There's the Midas. There is some of the stream decks. It's absolutely stupid, but I love stream decks. They're the best things in sliced bread. That's also, you can see our border there as well. So we shrunk down ME2, put it a little bit to the right, and ran the border. Yeah, just adds a little bit of something to it, so you get a bit of extra something, but at the expense of an extra ME. So MEs are hard to come by these days. This is our animating super source so that we could do that as well. Me looking like I know what I'm doing. Our Ursas as well. So we had teleprompter in 3 different angles depending on which way the host was looking. So it's just the same feed, just copied over there. Stage shots for behind the scenes. And so we had a sting loaded into the switcher as well. That was where... So that was handy to have. So we had the sting available both on ME2 but also ME1, depending on where we needed to animate. Having a sting built into the switcher is so handy. I really hope that they bring it out for the ATEM Extreme. I'm very curious to see what they do with this thing, but I mean, it's already a very powerful machine. Yeah, so look, I think unless anyone's got any last minute questions, I think we're probably a good point to wrap this up. So I'm actually jumping on with Aaron Parecki next Sunday on his show, which is, I'm really excited to join him and have a chat with him, just talking about the show and whatever else we end up talking about. So definitely check out his channel and hope to see you next week. But if you like this, let me know. Throw in the comments. Do you want to see more of these kind of things? We've got more events coming up. We've got a event for the same company. Event for the same company, but for all hands, where we are the remote hosts signing in to their side. We did one for another tech giant a few months ago, and that there's actually some interesting stories from that. So if you like this kind of content, let me know. I'm keen to do more of these if you want to see more of these. So let me know in the chat. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have been Ryan Summerfield, and I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. See ya.